Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our weekly Technologies of the Future webinar and live Q&A. Today, it is International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer. So please join us for a conversation about the ozone layer. We have learned some fun facts this morning to share with you all. And I will kick us into a quick little passage for you all. And it starts... It's the University of Reading. Ozone is present only in small amounts in Earth's atmosphere. Nevertheless, it is vital to human well-being and ecosystem health. Most ozone resides in the upper part of the atmosphere. This region, called the stratosphere, is more than 10 kilometers, 6 miles above the Earth's surface. There are about 90% of atmospheric ozone is contained in the ozone layer, which shields us from harmful ultraviolet radiation from the sun. In the mid-1970s, it was discovered that some human-produced chemicals could lead to depletion of the ozone layer. The resulting increase in ultraviolet radiation at Earth's surface would likely increase the incidence of skin cancer and eye cataracts, and also adversely affect plants, crops, and ocean plankton. Following the discovery of this environmental issue, researchers sought a better understanding of this threat to the ozone layer. Monitoring stations showed that abundances of the ozone-depleting substances, ODSs, were steadily increasing in the atmosphere. These trends were linked to growing production and use of chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, for refrigeration and air conditioning, foam blowing, and industrial cleaning. Measurements in the laboratory and in the atmosphere characterized the chemical reactions that were involved in ozone destruction. Computer models of the atmosphere employing this information were used to stimulate how much ozone depletion was occurring and to predict how much more might occur in the future. Observations of the ozone layer showed that depletion was indeed occurring. The most severe and most surprising ozone loss was discovered to be recurring in springtime over Antarctica. The loss in this region is commonly called the ozone hole because the ozone depletion is so large and localized. A thinning of the ozone layer also has been observed over the other regions of the globe, such as the Arctic and northern and southern mid-latitudes. The work of many scientists throughout the world has provided a basis for building a broad and solid scientific understanding of the ozone depletion process. With this understanding, we know that ozone depletion is indeed occurring and why. Most important, we know that if the most potent ODSs were to continue to be emitted and increase in the atmosphere, the result would be more depletion over the ozone layer. And I'm going to stop there and invite online our expert for this morning for a conversation about the ozone layer. And I say expert, Andrew is about to join us. And I actually shared this morning with the team, I actually don't know much about the ozone layer at all. So this might be very, very interesting to see if Andrew knows so much. Otherwise, we might be filling the morning with some fun facts. Andrew,
good morning. I may disappoint, but definitely it's such an interesting thing because the ozone layer is something so crucial to life on Earth as it is. It blocks out radiation harmful. I think it does more than UV. It's actually, ozone layer is up of oxygen. It's 3 oxygen atoms put together, but it's just so incredibly protective that it's it's one of the little pieces of our environment that lets life exist as it is. Very interesting topic.
Yeah, good morning. Have you got a one-word opener for us?
Do I have a one-word opener? Excited. Feeling excited.
I love it. I am going to say my word for this morning is, I was going to say celebratory because it's birthday month. So I'm seem to be celebrating every day, which is very nice.
Is it your birthday, or is it one of those family clusters of everyone's birthday seems to fall in that month?
It's a little bit of both. It is my birthday on Tuesday, the 20th for anyone. It's a milestone birthday this year. So I've been having a decade shift in the last, it's probably been a good year of coming to terms with turning 40. So I have been sharing with everyone that I'm, going to watch the sunset on my 30s, or just ask me how old I am, because I'm going to tell you I'm in my 30s as much as I can, and just keep saying I'm in my 30s. So I feel like I've had this kind of time to come to terms with it. A beautiful friend actually shared a gift that, age is all in the mind. So I'm working on that, but I am actually taking the opportunity to have a future by design for my 40s. I sold a business, an engineering business, when I was 29. And I've now been in this business for 10 years, just had the 10-year anniversary in August. So it's been another decade. So I'm consciously designing what the next shift looks like. And a lot of friends and family and colleagues and people who have known me for a long time will have noticed the brand changing to Wavier in the last month or two, and we've been doing it slowly and gradually, but Wavier is the next decade. So that's been quite fun. I believe we've actually got Louis with us today as well. And we'll
our resident scientist.
Absolutely. Solving all the world's problems. So as Louis jumps on and gets promoted there. Good morning.
Hey, Louis.
How you going?
Have you got a one-word opener for us?
Elevated. We'll roll with that.
I like it. Elevated at least 10 to 50,000, 10 to 50 kilometers above the
Something
Earth.
like that.
It's the troposphere or the stratosphere where the O3 exists.
Yep.
Talking about the ozone layer. So how'd I go?
Yeah, I think you're pretty much bang on right there.
So, Louis, you're very big on climate change and solving the world's challenges. And, I actually was just reading and learning this morning. We'll talk a little bit about mindset as well to kick us off. But O3 actually in the lower parts of the Earth's atmosphere is really potent and dangerous for people and plants and all the rest. So, I guess being in the business that we are with New Wave Biotech and looking at enhancing plant growth, what does O3 do for it?
Oxygen is a bit of an odd one with plants. Ideally, plants want carbon dioxide rather than oxide, and with oxygen coming down that low, or just O3, it can cause pretty bad oxygen stress on plants. But with saying that, they try to cope and then turn around and kick off a whole bunch of stuff to protect themselves from being, from pretty much having oxidative stress. And from that, then they try to lower their water usage and try to bump up their yields, funnily enough. It's just, plants are a weird thing, and oxygen's even weirder, to be honest. So, yeah, no, it's just, I don't know. I don't know enough about this section to be able to give you the best thing, but I can say that O3 plus a little bit of hydrogen ends up with our water and pretty much our oxygen. And it's all pretty wild, to be honest.
It's interesting, just the balance that the Earth needs to be in for us all to thrive. And today actually is the 35th anniversary of the Montreal Protocol. And it's a protocol, a global corporation protecting life on Earth. And so today we're really celebrating the treaty turning 35 and remembering how the Montreal Protocol ended one of the biggest threats ever to face humanity as a whole, which was the depletion of the ozone layer. And they're actually sharing a little bit around how when the world found out that the ozone depleting gases used in aerosols and cooling were creating a hole in the sky, they all came together. And showed that multilateralism and effective global cooperation worked and phased out the gases. And now the ozone layer is healing, allowing it once again to shield humanity from the sun's ultraviolet radiation. So I find that really interesting. Like 35 years ago, we talk about these world's big problems and how when we band together, we can make a change. I did see there was a lovely video this morning around how a Chinese technology is contributing to solving the ozone layer challenges. And it was beautiful mythology, actually. It starts in how they believe that a demon poked a hole in the sky, and the story goes that then a goddess patched it, and the demon poked a hole in the sky, unleashing all these bad things on the earth, and then a goddess was able to help heal the hole and bring life and peace back to earth. And so I found that really interesting. But then there was also what they're doing about it, because China does contribute to the majority of the gases that are damaging the environment. And there was one example of a technology that they've implemented, I think it was from Moon Labs, and they were actually just changing the way that they do refrigeration, because there's huge amounts of refrigeration and air conditioning there that is contributing to those chemicals that are creating the problem. And so I found that fascinating, just to be able to go at scale, identifying where the chemicals are coming from. And it's almost like prioritizing them, because we know that there's a whole heap of things contributing to greenhouse gases and pollution and all the rest. But to be able to go, well, it's actually, these chemicals in particular, which ones are the biggest producers of those chemicals, and now let's create solutions to tackle that problem, which I love that process for solving a big problem. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about what's happening in that space.
Is this a case of producing more ozone? Because ozone, I think you can produce ozone through a bit of electricity. You see a spark coming up, there's probably some ozone that's been emitted for that. Lightning is a producer of ozone. Is it a case of humanity just pumping out more ozone than what it damages? Or should we get to the root cause of going, what's an alternative to these CFCs?
Yeah. It's not even, CFCs are a massive driver, and making ozone, I'm not exactly sure that's going to help, because the amount of energy that's going to basically absorb and contribute to more heating is not ideal. And there's lots of little things, like take nitric oxide, and that stuff's 310 times more powerful than carbon dioxide in heating up our atmosphere and burning up our ozone. So with different little changes, we reduce the things that are absorbing that heat. The ozone layers are pretty much allowed to repair again. And yeah, things like CFCs and nitrogens and all those other things, it's more going to be a case of just reducing the overall use and allowing things to just kind of go forward and do their job. Just let lightning take its work.
Yeah, it was just interesting as well, just based on the location of the O3 and the ozone. So if we're actually doing it down low in the Earth's atmosphere, it's going to be super dangerous and harmful. But then if it's in the right place, then absolutely. So like you say, Louis, I don't know if we can make electricity and bring on the lightning storms down over the Antarctica in spring. That might be a little bit more godlike and challenging.
Nikola Tesla did something like that back in the day. Worked out that up above the stratosphere basically could just store energy in our thing and then bring down lightning wherever he wanted, which may be one thing we have to look into one day. Wait and see, I guess. But yeah, with any luck, we'll get there long before that takes. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. And I guess the chemical processes, like I've got it, how is ozone formed in the atmosphere, and just sharing how it's throughout the atmosphere is a multi-step chemical process that requires sunlight. And in the stratosphere, it begins with an oxygen molecule, and which is O2 being broken apart by ultraviolet radiation from the sun. And in the lower atmosphere, the troposphere, ozone is formed by a different set of chemical reactions that involve naturally occurring gases and those from pollution sources. And so, we want less pollution and, more of the sun and ultraviolet, radiation to make that. So I still keep coming back to this future of perfect knowledge, and like having Jarvis, it's, when are we going to be able to, as general population, everyone have access to information. And so you hear about these models, and they do all this modeling around the ozone and where it is and the impacts, and they're able to see what it's been like over time, and sort of have this Jarvis view. And, is it 10 years with the amount of devices and sensors that we can actually just ask Siri or Alexa those questions to be able to say, well, what's the ozone layer like outside today? And, should I go outside, or should I plant a crop in this location? Or, is it happening in the stratosphere at a positive rate? So we're actually healing the ozone layer and the hole in the ozone layer, or are we destroying it more? And so just everyone being able to have access to that information at any time. And it's super cool that you can actually do a little bit of research. Like this morning, I've jumped online and I'm doing some searches, and I'm reading, and I'm just finding some fun facts, which is super cool. But how does that play into our day-to-day lives, and what we decide is important to work on and to create businesses doing? So that's just part of my thought process this morning of, this is super cool that we can learn it. But I guess from your point of views, when do you think we'll be able to have real-time information in a way that's fun, to ask these fun facts and consuming and know the information on a daily basis?
That's incredible.
Uh,
I'm actually pretty excited by the speed at which AI has come to be, and how quickly that's being adopted into just our everyday normal phones. And with that, I think that's actually going to bring a whole new generation of not just information, but potential on how to share that with others as well. Just little prompts here and there. And I bet something like AI is going to help with that, and that's going to actually help pass on information to everyone. Then I'd like to see that within the next 5-6 years at the rate tech's been going for the last 10. So wait and see.
Oh, I'm a bit more dystopian than you at the moment, Louis. I've actually, interestingly enough, I've just been reading this book, Novacine. Don't know if you can. The thing blocks it out. By James Lovelock, and he created what's called the Gaia theory in 1973. I think actually, Lou, you might find it interesting if you haven't read it. About the Earth and its life being a non-linear dynamical system, which essentially means it adapts to accommodate whatever's in the environment and compensate. He goes a little bit further and says all future life on the Earth is going to be electronic in one way or another. And touching back on this AI, are we going to be seeing we've got more information than ever, but are we interested in it is a different question. Can we consume it and understand it well enough is a different question. I mean, we've got the culmination of the most brilliant minds in the world to bring out this little device, and we're TikToking on it, as opposed to consuming information. Will humans, or us as a collective, get to a point where we are truly fascinated, on average, by this knowledge? Because I think it's there. It's the cultural change to say, hey, STEM is cool, is probably our biggest challenge, I think.
I was actually thinking exactly that, and I was about to ask you, Andrew, because it's curiosity, I think. And I think about kids, and when they don't have the stresses of life and, working and having other things, they've got this freedom for curiosity. And so I've been learning a lot, even just about space, from my partner's kids. And, even Pluto was named by, your dwarf Pluto was named by an 11-year-old. And I'm like, that's super cool. But he's like, what about this? What about that? And how do we, I guess, have that lifelong learning and implement curiosity into our day-to-day life? And, Louis, you've probably got the most curiosity in your day-to-day life. So I'm going to throw that one over to you. How do you stay curious?
Honestly, I reckon it's finding that one little topic that used to love as a kid, because I guarantee you've both got a topic you both got into as kids, because I've never met a kid that didn't have at least one kind of direction, at least a little bit. But I reckon if you kind of build on that, your brain just keeps moving forward and staying curious in that area, because it's what just lights you up. And I'm not even sure if that's your genetics or your parents or what, but I think when you find that one little area and you kind of just focus on the more you focus on something, the more you just become curious. It's kind of like just a little addictive kind of circle. And it's, yeah, I don't know. I reckon if we kind of got people more onto, yeah, hey, what is your passion? And just let them go hard. I reckon the curiosity starts to build on itself.
And some practical tips for you, for everyone from you, Louis. One thing you've inspired me from was Free Thought Friday. Like, and that's like an action or something that, our listeners and our viewers could actually implement. Can you share with us a little bit about Free Thought Friday?
Oh, just going hard on a new topic and just being inventive and things that you enjoy and just going for it. Just accepting Friday is the end of the week and try and find something new that you enjoy. Just be creative with it. I'm sure I have said a few things before differently to what I've said this morning on Free Thought Friday, but it is pretty much that. Just let your brain run wild on an idea that you really enjoy. And just see what questions you come up with and just push forward with them. It's good fun.
Andrew, do you have any tips?
Oh yeah, look, I think back to the point of being curious. I think we all started curious as children. We learn and explore the environment until we get told to stop. Don't touch that. Don't play in there. Don't jump in the puddle. Don't break the TV. All those sorts of things. I was really fortunate that my fascination as a kid was clocks and watches. And I'd go around unscrewing and disassembling all of the clocks until Mum had enough. But instead of just telling me not to, she went to a secondhand store, bought me a bunch of little clocks and watches, and said, "Don't touch the ones on the wall, Andrew. Here's the little box. Just you're allowed to touch these." So my curiosity was redirected, but never stopped.
Whoa, yeah.
And I think we've all had that, and at some point, we've been told no too many times instead of being redirected. And I think it's in all of us. Bring that, find it and bring it back, because we've all got that curiosity.
I love it. When I was young, I actually wanted to be a teacher. And so, I had my sister's 6 years younger than me. So we had school and she knew algebra when she was 4. And I just found that fascinating. And now it's like impacting 1 billion people. It's like, teaching the whole wide world. Like, how do we raise, the standards and the education and the ability, because I believe that education and understanding can solve all of the world's conflict. And so, converging that with even song and dance, like I keep in my head, I'd like to teach the world to sing. I'm not going to sing it, but in perfect harmony, because, my voice is not quite back yet. But, those are the kind of things that remaining curious is super cool. And so even on today's topic with the ozone layer, how do we actually talk about oxygen as a whole? And so I even just think, people go to oxygen chambers, or the elite athletes will do performance training at high altitude. I know in Bondi, there's a cycle studio that you can train at altitude. So you're actually being able to stress test your body and really get into that zone. And, Michael Jackson slept in an oxygen chamber. And, how does oxygen impact our brain? And so when there is pollution and too much O3, that's also going to impact our brains. So for me, this curiosity around this topic is actually, this morning I learned that ozone actually is in the lower atmosphere as well, and it's not good for us. And, whether that's the pollution and the toxic gases, I think in Australia, we're so blessed because we're on an island in the Southern Hemisphere where less than 10% of the world's population lives. So, I think about, there's 7 billion people or so in the Northern Hemisphere and 800 million in the Southern Hemisphere, 900 million in the Southern Hemisphere. So, how are the gases, and the hole in the ozone layer is above Antarctica. And so today's curiosity is really about oxygen and learning that. And so, your postcode determines, or your zip, excuse me, your zip code determines your health code. What is our postcode or our zip code, and how does that impact our world? So I wish I had quantum sensors to be able to go, well, what's the oxygen levels and the pollution levels? I'm in the CBD of Sydney right now. I'm down at Walsh Bay. So, is that actually a good environment for me to thrive or not? And do I need to get an oxygen chamber like Michael Jackson and sleep in a hyperbaric chamber? And would that actually be good? My brain capacity might increase and it would be super good for me. So anyway.
This is a question for Louis on just that. Is oxygen really just a poison that kills us over a very long period of time?
Okay, this one's really wild. No, oxygen straight up is everything that we need, and ozone is something we're not, just one extra oxygen molecule more, and that's what's helping kill us. And various single oxygens. O2 though, we're good as gold, and it's something that our brains, our bodies, blood, everything, we all need it. So it's not a bad way to roll. And funnily enough, things like peanuts and red wine actually help oxygenate the blood and get it going better, just from something called resveratrol, and that actually helps strengthen the blood cells, gets more oxygen in, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's not going to be something that's killing you. The single oxygen or the triple, yeah, that's going to knock you off pretty damn quickly. But yeah, the dual one, that's gorgeous for you. It's something we all need.
I love it. We're almost at time, so I'm going to ask you both for a vision of the future. So the question is, it's the year 2042. You've just woken up. Based on our conversation, what does the world look like?
I would like to see a global thing, basically like a global standard on the amount of gases being able to be put out by each place, and everyone kind of working towards having a gorgeous global ecosystem above us, good ozone, so that way we're not getting floods, we're not getting heating of the oceans. And yeah, I'd love to see that we all just kind of work together towards making this a bit better.
Andrew?
To me, it'll be waking up and seeing and the world feels like it did pre-industrial era, but with all the comforts that we value that came from the post-industrial period.
I like that.
I love it. I'm going to borrow your word, Louis, around gorgeous. So we have a gorgeous environment. The sun is shining, and we have this perfect harmony. So I've got the song still going in my head. We're singing. We're all singing, and every single cell and molecule on the earth is just singing in perfect harmony. And I just think about that environmental balance and the chemical makeup of just how the atmosphere and the world and the planet works. And so how do we actually vibrate on the same right level at the right time to create this thriving environment that is going to promote good health for everybody, both planet and people, and we'll live happily ever after because we've got all the oxygen and all the happiness and the gorgeous sunshine, and we're not going to get skin cancer and cataracts because there's no holes in the ozone layer.
Yeah, that's it. And no more crap in the oxygen, like in our oxygen we breathe every day. Be gorgeous. It really will.
Yeah, and we'll have quantum sensors because they will be able to inform us if we shouldn't go into certain areas or where we should go, just to be able to thrive as well.
Big time.
Everyone lives happily ever after, and that's us at time. Thank you so much, Louis, for joining us. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us. Thank you, Hayley, behind the scenes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in live on LinkedIn, or if you're watching the recording. We appreciate that you stay curious with us, and I hope that you enjoy a little bit of Free Thought Friday and get out there and be curious. Happy Friday, all.
Happy Friday, all. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, everyone.